I make a living selling my photos online, posing as someone else for their long-distance relationships. For an extra fee, I'll even do voice calls and video chats. Until one day, a long-term client messaged me, "Would you meet up with him in person for 100,000? You can keep all the stuff he buys you too." Just as I was about to refuse, she sent me a picture of my arch-nemesis. I stared blankly. "Are you saying you've been using my photos and videos to date him?" "Well, honey, you've been scammed," I said, trying to be gentle. "No way," she insisted. "He sent me so much money. Isn't this exactly what the Sterling family heir would do?" I ran the photo she sent of Julian Sterling through a Google search. It had been used to death by meme accounts. I sent her a screenshot. She was still completely sure. "We've been working together for so long, would I lie to you? My online boyfriend is the Sterling heir." I sighed in exasperation. From what I knew of a rich kid like Julian Sterling, he had more than enough girls chasing him in real life to deal with. Why would he bother with an online relationship? Especially one using my photos and videos. Forget falling in love across a screen, he'd probably just throw up. I replied to my client, "He saw my pictures and didn't say anything?" "He said they were beautiful, because you are beautiful." She paused, then added, "I even used your voice clips. Every time I sent one, he'd transfer me 5,200. Oh my God. If Julian actually heard my cutesy, high-pitched voice, he'd probably lose his appetite for 3 days. That settled it. There was no way that guy was Julian Sterling. With that in mind, I re-watched all the photos and videos I'd sold to this client. The photos were just normal selfies. The videos, on the other hand, all sorts of tight miniskirts paired with the cat ear filter. Whatever, it's not like the guy was actually Julian. The client kept begging me, "Come on, sweetie, please help me out. It'll be totally PG." I told him I'm not ready for anything physical yet. "We're meeting at the downtown mall, it's super crowded." When I didn't reply, she sent another frantic message, "If you have to, just meet him for 1 minute and leave. Otherwise, he'll think I'm a catfish, and how am I supposed to get any more money out of him?" A few seconds later, I got a notification, a 300,000 transfer to my bank account. My fingers, which had been typing out a refusal, froze. But then again, if this guy was bold enough to use Julian Sterling's photos for an online romance, how did he have the guts to meet in person? Wasn't he worried about not matching the pictures? My client could get me to stand in for her, but nobody could order the real Julian Sterling around. You know what? I was curious to see what kind of weirdo this guy was. I deleted my rejection. Fine. Come to think of it, this client was pretty loaded herself. TSK, I had a feeling the real Julian wasn't even as generous as this imposter. Afraid I'd back out, she quickly sent me some screenshots of her chats with the fake Julian. It was all hubby kisses and I only love my hubby. The gifs she sent were all cutesy ones of kittens spinning, kittens being happy, and kittens cuddling. Fake Julian's replies were always the same. "You're so beautiful, babe. Transfer. You're so cute, babe. Transfer. Holy mother of money." The client quickly sent me the location. "It's this mall." I took a look. Well. The great Julian Sterling actually did like to hang out at this mall. It was close to one of his family's mansions. Maybe. I dialed Julian's number. What if I could get the imposter to see the real Julian Sterling right in front of him? That would scare him to death. Oh, right. I was blocked. I quietly put my phone away. After 1,000 reminders from my client, I got all dressed up as promised and arrived at the mall half an hour early to get the lay of the land. I did not expect to run into Julian Sterling there. He looked relaxed, one hand casually in his pocket. A girl was with him, chattering away. Julian wasn't really listening, a careless smile on his face. But the fact that he wasn't showing any sign of impatience was already a miracle. I was stunned. Then Julian noticed me, and his smile vanished. He muttered under his breath, "What bad luck." I heard him loud and clear but kept my face neutral. The girl instinctively linked her arm with Julian's and shot me a hostile look. "Who are you?" When I didn't answer, she looked at Julian with a pout. Julian scoffed. "Just some broke girl." He wasn't wrong. If I weren't broke, I wouldn't be here to meet a fake Julian Sterling. I let out a couple of laughs, my voice light. To be hated by the great Julian Sterling. I should consider it an honor. Hearing this, Julian's expression instantly darkened. He crossed his arms, his words merciless. "Ava, what in here can you even afford?" "As long as you can afford it, that's all that matters," I said with a smile, pointing to a nearby boutique. "Didn't you buy me a bag from this very store once?" The girl's eyes widened. "What's your relationship with him?" "What relationship?" "First love." Though dating this rich kid was the single biggest mistake of my life. Julian didn't say anything, and I wasn't about to embarrass myself, so I slung my bag over my shoulder and turned to leave. "Ava," he said, his tone light but just as arrogant and condescending as ever. "So which guy did you trick into paying for your stuff this time?" I turned back. "Don't you worry, Julian. I haven't managed to trick anyone more generous than you yet." Of course, the guy my client tricked didn't count. Julian had been pampered his whole life and never learned to hide his emotions. For example, I knew that right now, he was in a very bad mood. I was worried he'd mess up my meeting, so after a moment's hesitation, I tried to placate him. "You were right before. People like me don't get happy endings. But as long as you're happy, that's what matters." To be honest, I think the arch nemesis thing was all him. I never liked making enemies, especially with a generous ex-boyfriend. The rich kid, who was hard to please back then, was even less likely to fall for it now. He curled his lip, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Don't leave. I want to see what kind of loser you've reeled in this time." I froze. I had no idea what kind of persona my client had created with the fake Julian. What if it was some innocent, pure-hearted damsel type? That would blow up in my face. With Julian's personality, it would probably take him 3 sentences to expose me. I swallowed my pride. "He's not as handsome as you, and he's not as rich." "Julian, why do you have to humiliate me like this?" The girl next to him nodded. "Yeah, Julian, let's just go." Julian didn't even glance at the girl. He pulled a card out of his pocket with his long fingers. The girl took it, her demeanor instantly changing as she left. "Okay, I'm going shopping then. Text me if you need anything, Julian." I smiled. "She's cute." Julian didn't respond, but he didn't seem to be leaving either, just staring at me. But he was always like this, willful and unrestrained. I remembered when he had a fever once. I was worried sick, but he just lazily held my hand and whispered, "Want to see how hot 104 degrees can feel?" My eyes went wide, and my face turned beet red. Not from blushing, but from anger. "Are you insane?" He just smirked, a muffled laugh escaping his lips. We ended up trying it, and he ended up in the emergency room. Just childish memories. I lowered my gaze. Julian quickly grew impatient. He looked up and said, "You didn't just make someone up, did you?" I stayed silent. His patience ran out. He answered a call from a friend. "Yeah, I'll be there in a bit." Then he glanced at me, a flicker of mockery in his eyes. "Instead of carrying that cheap canvas bag, you should have just swallowed your pride back then." With that, he strode away, the distance between us growing. I watched his tall figure retreat. Even the way he walked had an air of casual indifference. After Julian and I broke up, I packed up every single luxury item he'd ever given me and sent it all back to him. He just sent me a short text, "I don't take trash." Then he blocked me. As for all those luxury goods, a friend told me he threw them all in the trash cans in front of his mansion. My phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. "Nina, Sis, are you there yet? Maybe we should meet at the coffee shop. I'll just tell him I'm waiting for him there. Babe, answer me. I collected myself and replied, okay, I'm heading to the coffee shop now. When I got to the coffee shop, I looked around. I messaged my client, babe, bad news, Julian Sterling is not here. Even worse news, there's only one handsome guy here. Impossible. He said he's already there. She replied anxiously. I sighed. Just then, the one handsome guy in the cafe started walking toward me. The corners of his eyes tilted up slightly, a small beauty mark just below one of them. He had a gentle smile. But for some reason, he gave off the vibe of a cunning fox. I took a wary step back. He spoke, his voice magnetic. Ava. I looked down and messaged my client, your screen name isn't Nina, is it? Did you use my name? She replied instantly, yeah. I didn't dare use my real name, and we were talking about the price for the photos and videos, so I just sent him your name. Wow. I turned off my phone, took a deep breath, and looked up to greet the man. Hi there. He was even more handsome up close. He had delicate features, but he didn't look feminine. A high nose bridge, thin lips curled into a slight smile, and a sparkling stud in his left ear. He was much better looking than I'd imagined, stunning even. Wait, why would he even need to use Julian's photos? I gave a weak smile. You and the photos you sent me. You look quite different. He raised an eyebrow. I don't recall ever sending you my photo. For a split second, I lost my composure. This guy never even sent a photo, so how on earth was my client so sure he was Julian Sterling? I must have remembered wrong, I said through gritted teeth, forcing a smile. Can I use the restroom first? Of course, he said, his smile unwavering. Once in the restroom, I immediately called Nina. The second the call connected, I let loose. I fucking told you, your online boyfriend is not Julian Sterling, not Julian Sterling. You wouldn't listen, and I figured he was just a catfish. But it turns out he never even sent you a photo, so what made you think he was Julian Sterling? There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, a holy shit came out. It was a man's voice. I was dumbfounded. He's not Julian Sterling? How is that possible? Then who is he? He fired off a series of questions. I was losing it too. You're asking me? Where did you even find this guy? This is so messed up. I thought I was dealing with a girl trying to scam some money online, but who knew it was a guy? No wonder he needed to buy my voice clips. What does he look like? Describe him, quick. I couldn't believe this guy was even more panicked than I was. I said, he's actually really handsome, so don't worry about that. More silence from his end. After a long pause, his voice sounded hopeless. He doesn't have a red beauty mark under his eye, does he? I said, he does. I'm so screwed. So now he knows he's screwed. He wasn't so scared when he was taking the guy's money. If he had actually been scamming Julian, he'd really be screwed. Knowing Julian, he would have torn the guy limb from limb. He wouldn't have gotten away with it. After a moment, he asked miserably, so what do we do? I was curious. This guy seems a lot better than Julian. What did you think Julian was, some kind of saint? No, you don't understand, this brother of mine is way scarier than Julian. If Julian wanted to mess me up, my grandma could at least step in. If my brother wants to mess me up, nobody will do anything. As he said this, he started sobbing again. My eyes widened. What did you say? He was clearly in despair. No wonder Julian said I was stupid. Am I really that stupid? So what now? Should I just run? No. He said through clenched teeth. If you run, he'll definitely investigate. He'll 100% trace it back to me. I was speechless. He said decisively, why don't you just take over my messaging account? Just pretend it's been you two talking this whole time. My brother isn't bad looking, and he gives a lot of money. My jaw dropped. Before I could answer, he muttered to himself, I never thought he'd be so generous in a relationship. Damn, why isn't he this generous with my allowance? Forget it, I refused. Ever since breaking up with Julian, I'd seen things clearly. What doesn't belong to you will never belong to you. Especially these rich playboys. Don't have any fantasies about them. Besides, if I actually got involved with this guy and Julian found out, who knows how the rich kid would freak out. No, wait, he'd probably just mock the guy, you have terrible taste, getting involved with a girl like Ava. I thought to myself and sighed again. The guy on the phone wasn't happy. Don't you offer after-sale service? They really are family. His thought process was just as messed up as Julian's. I said flatly, I'm hanging up. 500,000. I'll add another 500,000. He panicked. I'm using my New Year's money for this. My brother cannot find out. 1 million. You're ripping me off. You'll definitely get a ton from my brother, and you still want to bleed me dry? Then forget it, I said. Deal. He said, sounding defeated. What's your brother's name? I asked. Sebastian Sterling. My head shot up. You mean Julian's cousin who's always abroad? Yes. In the restroom, I smoothed out my dress, touched up my makeup, took a deep breath, and walked out. Sebastian was waiting for me outside. Honestly, Sebastian himself didn't seem as prim and proper as his name might suggest. He had an air of effortless grace that seemed to exist outside the rules. He was all smiles, like a fox. Why would someone with this much money and power be dating online? I proactively linked my arm with his. He paused for a fraction of a second, then his smile widened. See anything you want to buy? Or should we eat first? He asked. Either is fine, I said. He then took me from one store to the next. Unlike Julian, he would patiently comment on how each bag and every outfit looked on me, and then he'd buy them all. Julian would just walk into a store, sit down, and play on his phone. After I picked things out, he'd pay, and we'd leave. It was strange, like a perfect boyfriend had just fallen from the sky. But Sebastian was definitely not as easygoing as he seemed on the surface. People like him were the most dangerous. But for now. He even had 2 bodyguards following us to carry the shopping bags. Ava, I've made a reservation at that restaurant you said you wanted to try, Sebastian said with a slight curve of his lips. Let's go. I answered cheerfully. Do you remember which one it is? He asked smoothly, his eyes cast down in a lazy manner. It was like he was watching a prey in the palm of his hand. Which one? I had no idea. I couldn't exactly pull out my phone and ask my male client's sister right now. The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. My heart trembled, and I bit my lip. I felt a chill run down my spine. I finally understood what the guy meant when he said Sebastian was scarier than Julian. Julian wore his emotions on his sleeve. If you pissed him off, you'd face the consequences immediately. But Sebastian was different. I couldn't read him. For instance, I had no idea what he meant by suddenly asking that question. I moved my lips, but before I could speak, he gave a half smile, his voice warm and deep. It's okay. You're busy, Ava. It's normal to be forgetful. You'll know when we get there. I nodded eagerly. Sebastian was actually a good guy. If it had been Julian and he found out I'd forgotten something about him, he would have launched into a 5-hour lecture of non-stop sarcastic insults. When we arrived at the restaurant, the waiter saw Sebastian and greeted him respectfully, Mr. Sterling. He then led us to a private room in the back. The room was beautiful, complete with a pond full of koi fish. I sat across from Sebastian. His sleeves were loosely rolled up, revealing well-defined hands. The fair skin made the slightly raised blue veins even more prominent. I didn't pick up the menu. You can order. I'm not a picky eater. Sebastian chuckled softly. All right. Taking the opportunity, I sent a message to my male client. You told Sebastian you wanted to eat at a fancy steakhouse? I almost got exposed. Are there any other details? Tell me now. Suddenly, the door to the private room was pushed open. A familiar voice called out, Sebastian? You're back in the country? I froze instantly. Julian clicked his tongue and said listlessly, I thought this room was empty, so I didn't make a reservation. There are no other private rooms left, so let's just share. I hunched over like a quail, keeping my head down for dear life. But I forgot that Julian once told me that he'd recognize me even if I returned to ash, just so he could scatter me to the wind. Ava? The lazy voice instantly turned cold. I didn't dare look up. To my horror, a reply to my message lit up my phone screen. Huh? No way, I never told my brother where I wanted to eat. I don't like steakhouses, I like goose stewed in an iron pot. My eyes widened. Look at me, Ava, Julian seethed. Sebastian tapped his fingertips lightly on the table. Is that any way to talk to your sister-in-law? What did you say? Julian's voice rose. Only then did I slowly raise my head, forcing a smile. What a coincidence. Then, following Sebastian's lead, I added, little brother. Who the hell is your little brother? Julian immediately flew into a rage, pointing at me and demanding of Sebastian, you don't know that she and I dated? Sebastian slowly sipped his coffee. I didn't. Are you two still together? No. We broke up a long time ago, I quickly interjected. You shut up, Julian's voice was tight with suppressed anger, each word seemingly squeezed from between his teeth. He clenched his fists, his knuckles white with force. Sebastian, you didn't look into it when I was dating her? And now you're bullshitting me, saying you don't know Ava? Sebastian crossed his legs, his posture relaxed, even managing a faint smile in the suffocating atmosphere. I did. So what? The corners of Julian's eyes turned red with anger. I sighed internally and spoke up, don't be angry. Maybe we just weren't meant to be. Why don't you have some water and calm down? As I said this, I started to get up to pour him some water. Ava. Sebastian gave me a light glance. My heart skipped a beat, and I immediately sat back down, perfectly still. Julian was incredulous. You argue with me all the time, but you listen to him just like that? Are you under a spell? Mostly, it's just that Sebastian is a bit more intimidating. A long time passed. Julian's voice was slightly hoarse. When did you two get together? I couldn't answer that. Sebastian spoke calmly, end of last year. Specifically? Julian seemed determined to get the exact date. The day after Christmas. My expression froze. A sarcastic chill touched Julian's lips. Ava, you're really something. Julian and I broke up on Christmas Day. But I wasn't the one who started talking to Sebastian the day after Christmas. I remained silent, swallowing the bitter truth and accepting the title of having moved on seamlessly. Seeing my silence, Julian slammed the door and stormed out. Sebastian, however, didn't seem to care. He said considerately, if the food isn't to your taste, be sure to let me know. I nodded timidly. He gave me a surprised look. Are you afraid of me? As he smiled, the red beauty mark by his eye was captivatingly distracting. I moved my lips. You looked into me before? He nodded, completely at ease. The family was curious about Julian's girlfriend, so they had me do a little digging. Then you. I was shocked. You still with me? Sebastian's smile deepened. I thought my little brother's girlfriend was cute for a long time. I awkwardly touched my nose. But I still felt like something was wrong. A long time ago? Before he investigated me? Right, and Sebastian's little test just now. Didn't that mean he already knew he was talking to someone else online? That I was just a stand-in for the real meeting? I trembled, not daring to speak rashly. Ava, Sebastian said. Come with me to the family home next week. I was shocked. What? He gave a helpless smile. You said you wanted to meet my family. You mentioned it several times. Don't you remember, Ava? My heart pounded. After what happened earlier, I didn't dare answer casually. Oh, right. But I'm not ready yet, I said, unconsciously clutching the hem of my clothes. You said before that your family wants a $3 million bride price. Ava, I can transfer that to your account anytime, Sebastian said, looking at me seriously. I was terrified. What kind of insane bride price was that? Is that what Sebastian's little brother said? My voice trembled. No rush, no rush. Let's just see how things go. By the end, my voice was trailing off. This whole family was terrifying. The atmosphere fell silent. Sebastian lowered his eyes, his smile gone. He said softly, Sorry, I was being too hasty. I was taken aback. Could he actually have deep feelings for me? If he found out that the person who had been sweet-talking him this whole time was a guy, and that I was an accomplice in his brother's scam. I buried my face in my hands. Things seemed to be spiraling out of control. From Sebastian's expression, he seemed genuinely sad. Well, I guess that makes sense. If he didn't really like her, who would spend so much money on an online girlfriend? I quietly stood up. I'm going to the restroom again. Your brother wants to take me to meet your family, I messaged Nina. Him, come on over. Me, is that the right reaction? I thought he'd be jumping up and down in a panic, but he seemed surprisingly calm. What's done is done. Just name your price and help me cover up this lie. I stared at the message, bewildered. I replied, This isn't about covering up a lie. Have you ever thought that one lie requires countless others to maintain? What if I can't get out of this clean? He sent me a voice message, sigh, who knew it would turn out like this? But honestly, you're not getting a bad deal with my brother. He's handsome, rich, and has never been in a relationship. He might not have a lot of experience, but he's well endowed. With a little coaching, he'll be the perfect boyfriend. My mouth twitched uncontrollably. I was completely defeated. Your family. There isn't a single normal person among you, is there? I only have one request. After you become my sister-in-law, could you suggest to my brother that he increase my allowance? Me, I don't believe I've agreed to anything yet. I'd be done for if I saw Julian at the Sterling house. I wasn't willing to take that risk. 10 seconds later, $5 million landed in my bank account. His tone became a little pleading. Come on, sis, please help me out. Just get me through this period. You can break up with him whenever you get tired of him. Just think of it as me making up for using your photos to scam people by getting you a boyfriend, okay? I stared at my bank account balance. Then again. So what if I got together with Sebastian? Was Julian going to kill me? With that thought, I returned to the private room. Our eyes met. I blinked at Sebastian and said, What day are we going to the Sterling house? Holding on to Sebastian's arm, I stepped through the gates of the Sterling estate. The vast manor was intricate and opulent. As we walked forward, the number of people grew. Truly a massive family. I followed Sebastian's lead, greeting everyone. The Sterlings were all very nice, without the oppressive air you'd expect from a wealthy family. No one gave me dirty looks or acted snobbish. They all greeted me with smiles. So this is Sebastian's girlfriend. Oh my, so beautiful and fresh. The matriarch will be thrilled. I smiled shyly. Until a young man appeared, grinning. Bro, sis-in-law. Sebastian let out 2 cold laughs. The young man immediately ducked behind my other arm. Leo Han, a low voice called out. The young man instantly stiffened and turned his head mechanically. I followed the boy's gaze to find the source of the voice. Julian was standing there with one hand in his pocket. But my eyes didn't meet Julian's. He was scolding the boy. What are you running around for? Think you're the only one with legs? Leo Han pouted. Julian, I just came over to say hi to my brother and sister-in-law. If I don't, you'll just say I have no manners. Julian sneered. Ha, sister-in-law? I felt the blood in my veins turn to ice. But in the end, Julian didn't say anything more. He didn't look at me or Sebastian the entire time, just dragged Leo away. Go do your homework. You have the nerve to wander around after failing your math test? Leo was hauled away, looking miserable. I thoughtfully retracted my gaze. Leo's voice was almost identical to Nina's. It had to be him. I asked Sebastian, is that your biological brother? Why is his last name Han? Sebastian smiled faintly. He takes after our mother. I nodded. Not long after, Sebastian was called up to the study. I went to keep the sterling matriarch company. She held my hand and sighed, you and our Sebastian are such a perfect match. As she spoke, she wiped away a tear. I quickly handed her a tissue. That boy, Sebastian, he grew up too fast. His parents sigh. It's rare for him to like a girl this much. You two must be happy. The old lady seemed dazed for a moment, then looked relieved as she squeezed my hand. I stayed with her for a while before she suggested, Sebastian said you don't like it when it's too stuffy. Our garden is quite beautiful, you can go for a walk. Okay, I agreed. Feeling relieved, I walked into the garden, surrounded by the faint fragrance of flowers. Sebastian must have noticed I wasn't good at socializing and told everyone that if I felt bored, I could get some fresh air in the garden and shouldn't be disturbed. But some people, apparently, don't listen. I wasn't surprised to hear footsteps, and I didn't turn around. Ava, what are you thinking? Are you that desperate to marry into the Sterling family? Julian's voice was ice cold. My fingertips brushed against a rose petal. I said lightly, you're more than welcome to expose my true colors to everyone in your family. After a long pause, Julian's muffled voice sounded. What true colors? I answered nonchalantly, your ex-girlfriend, who spent your money. The one who seamlessly moved on to Sebastian right after breaking up with you. Julian was silent for a very long time. His lips moved slightly. I don't want them to have a bad impression of you. I was confused. You still care about that? His voice was dry and hoarse. What if one day, you could still as Julian Sterling's wife? He stopped abruptly, realizing what he'd said. I stared at him, my eyes wide with shock. After a long moment, I shook my head. That's not going to happen. The wine glass in Julian's hand fell to the ground. It shattered with a crisp sound. Why did you get with Sebastian the day after we broke up? How did you two even get together? Julian grabbed my wrist, his grip tight. I didn't want to get into a struggle with him here. It's none of your business. Ava. My struggling stopped. I looked up in surprise. Julian's voice, just then, had a distinct catch in it, like he was about to cry. There was no cliché, dramatic reason for why Julian and I got together and then broke up. It was simply because his rich kid temper was too much to handle. If I didn't reply to his texts instantly, he'd get angry. If I spent too much time on my schoolwork, he'd get angry. If I said one extra word to another guy, he'd get angry. Even if a news alert about some male celebrity popped up on my social media, he'd throw a fit. Are you secretly searching for him online? What, am I not handsome enough for you? When he got angry, he was incredibly difficult to pacify. I'd grovel and bring him soup, he'd dump it all out. I'd message him on every social media platform to explain, he'd block me on all of them. I'd go to his house to find him, he'd refuse to see me and tell the butler to make me leave. I'd wait for him on his way to class, he'd ignore me. If I followed him, he'd look up and sneer, Ava, you piss me off every day. You think I have a good temper? In the end, We'd only make up days later when he'd unblock me on one platform and send me a single one. And I would go back to him. He'd grant me a look as if doing me a great favor. "You're lucky I like you, otherwise I wouldn't forgive you so easily." My friends would say sympathetically, "Ava, between you two, who's the boyfriend and who's the girlfriend?" But right after that, they'd continue. "But you can't have it all. He's handsome and spends money on you, which is already better than most guys. So what if he has a bit of a temper? You should be the one to appease him. Otherwise, why would he choose you over all those influencers, celebrities, and socialites?" At first, I thought so too. He was the golden boy, condescending to be with me. It was normal for him to have a bad temper. I just had to appease him. But then came the last time. It was Christmas. I spent a long time picking out a scarf for him that cost $3,000. I smiled as I put it on him. "Merry Christmas." He huffed out a laugh. "So you do know how to buy me gifts. Guess I didn't spoil you for nothing." A second later, he glanced at the scarf, and his expression changed instantly. His brow furrowed, his face darkening. "Don't you know I already have a gray scarf? Do you even care about me?" I stammered but said earnestly, "I remember you have scarves in every color. But look, this one has little snowflakes on it. I really spent a long time picking it out. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't be unaware that I have lots of gray scarves," he pressed, his tone aggressive. My voice grew weaker. "I'm sorry. I'll go exchange it, okay? What color do you want?" He ripped the scarf from his neck and threw it on the ground. His eyes were cold. "If you really had a heart, you'd know what color scarf I want. Ava, we've been dating for so long, and you still don't care about me at all." Just like all the other times, he turned and left without another glance at me. It was a lively Christmas evening. The streets were lined with Christmas trees adorned with glittering star ornaments. Passers-by laughed and chatted to the cheerful tune of Merry Christmas. I just stared at the scarf on the ground. An old woman with a basket, who was collecting recyclables, hesitated by the scarf. "Young lady, this scarf." "I don't want it," I said, shaking my head. I turned and walked away too. When I got home, as expected, I was blocked again. This time, I just leaned on my balcony, listening to the music drifting up from the street below. The December wind was bone-chillingly cold. That night, I stayed up all night packing everything Julian had ever given me and shipped it back to him. From then on, I was done with the rich kid. So I really couldn't connect the broken man in front of me with the Julian I remembered. He gripped my hand tightly, his voice hoarse. "Ava, don't be with Sebastian, please." I looked down, avoiding his eyes. When I didn't answer, his hand trembled as he pulled me into his arms. His tone held a plea that he probably didn't even notice himself. "I wanted you to come home with me before, but you never agreed. Why would you go home with him?" I pressed my lips together and asked, "Are you upset that I'm with someone else, or are you upset that I'm with Sebastian?" "Julian, you were right. I like tricking men into spending money on me," I said, breaking free from his embrace. "I promise you, in a few days, I'll pack my things and disappear from your lives forever, okay?" I was trying my best to soothe Julian calmly and gently. "Don't be like this. Your future sister-in-law will be an amazing person, and so will your wife." I wasn't going to get with Sebastian just to get back at Julian. Moving to another city had always been part of my plan. It wasn't a rash decision. Julian turned his head away, wiping his eye corner fiercely with his thumb. He closed his eyes. "Ava, you're always like this. If you truly care about someone, you wouldn't be so emotionally detached all the time." I hesitated. "Are you trying to say that all your behavior before was because you cared about me? If you really loved me, after we broke up, you'd either be clinging to me relentlessly or we'd never speak again. But you just see me as a tool, a phase in your life. You can look back and calmly say, 'Hi, thank you.' Do you dare say you ever truly loved me?" Julian's voice actually cracked. Under the moonlight, he looked fragile. I'm sorry, I sighed, wanting to end the conversation quickly. I softened my voice. I shouldn't have appeared in front of you. I really didn't expect the thing with Leo. Otherwise, I would never have gotten involved with Sebastian. I shouldn't have appeared in front of you. Why can't you choose to be tangled up with me forever? Julian's voice trembled at the end. I took a step back. Though I'd never seen Julian so broken, and it was certainly a novel sight, I was starting to get impatient. When we were together, you tormented me plenty. Now that we're broken up, you're still blaming me. Rich boy, why can't you just grow up? Because you never loved me. Julian's words fell. His voice was quiet. But the sentence felt like it landed with a thud in the garden, making even the scent of the flowers lose its flavor for a moment. Did I ever love Julian? I don't know. If you think love means getting angry for no reason every day and acting like a lunatic like you, then I have nothing to say, I said. Then what part of it proves you loved me? Julian looked up, his eyes devoid of any light. Seeing my silence, he curled his lips in a self-deprecating smile. I walked past him. See? You're still fixated on whether I loved you or not. If we hadn't broken up, would have eventually been driven crazy by you. That's just how Julian is. He has his own set of rich kid logic. If you get caught in his logic trap, you'll have a breakdown. But if you stay far away from his logic, the person having the breakdown will be someone else. It's actually like that with anyone. After dinner, Sebastian drove me home. He didn't say a word about what happened with Julian. The car window was halfway down, and the wind messed up my hair and calmed my heart. Honestly, after the confrontation with Julian, I was already exceptionally clear-headed and calm. I assumed Sebastian had already figured things out, either about me or Leo. But I had made a promise to Leo, so I wouldn't reveal the truth. I just said, "You're a very nice person, but our backgrounds are too different. We're not right for each other." Sebastian had one hand on the steering wheel. He glanced at me as I spoke. He raised an eyebrow. Are you giving me the nice guy card? No. Suddenly, out of the blue, he said, do you think I'm an idiot? Me, huh? I've known for a long time that the person I was chatting with wasn't you, he said nonchalantly. My brain short-circuited. I'm not stupid enough to not realize I was talking to Leo, he said, turning the steering wheel, his tone light. I knew he was using your photos to chat with me. If you knew, why did you still transfer him money? And send all those messages? I couldn't believe it. I made the transfers. As for the chatting, Sebastian paused slightly. I had my secretary reply. Why? What was the purpose? I turned to look at him. Sebastian didn't speak, just gave me an enigmatic look. I quickly ran through the recent events in my head and made a judgment. When Leo asked me to come to the Sterling house, that $3 million you transferred that? Sebastian didn't deny it. I had been wondering at the time how Leo could so generously pull out $3 million when he was trying so hard to scam money by pretending to be a girl. So that was it. I considered my words. Was this a trap from the beginning, or? Sebastian explained, Leo tried to scam money from me. I was pretty angry at first. But since he was using your photos, I didn't expose him right away. I grilled him as soon as I got back to the country. But, why? I stared at Sebastian and said bluntly, you have a crush on me? You like me? You tricked me into coming to your family's house to be your wife? My rapid-fire questions made Sebastian pause. After a moment, he sighed. Because we met a long time ago, he said, not answering my questions directly. I narrowed my eyes. I filtered through the images in my brain. After a long search, a faint memory surfaced. Before Julian and I were together, we were basically rivals. That was back in high school. He never gave me a pleasant look. Until one day, at a parent-teacher conference. Someone came and spoke to Julian. A few seconds later, Julian walked away. The only empty seat was next to me, so the man sat down. Julian came back and sat next to me. I was curious. "Who's that?" He answered curtly, "Someone annoying." I was surprised. "There's actually someone you find more annoying than me. Someone who could make Julian actively hide next to me." "Julian, he's a pain." "So who is he?" I pressed. Julian frowned for a long time. "My cousin." I looked over. The man was sitting diagonally in front of us. I could only see his side profile. And just his profile was breathtakingly handsome. The jawline, the nose. I clicked my tongue in admiration. "Hot." Julian's face instantly darkened. "You have terrible taste." Seeing him unhappy made me happy. I propped my head on my hand and said cheerfully, "How about you introduce me to your cousin? I'll be your sister-in-law." Julian shot up, the desk shaking with his movement. Everyone in the class looked over. He stared at me, grinding his teeth. "In your dreams." Then he just walked out of the classroom. I was baffled. I turned and my eyes met with Julian's cousin. His cousin let out a soft chuckle. After the teacher finished speaking, I got up from my seat and poked Sebastian. "You're Julian's cousin?" He nodded. "You seem so nice. Why is Julian's temper so bad?" I couldn't help but ask. Sebastian's expression didn't change. He looked down and smiled slightly. "His parents love him." I didn't understand, but I frowned. "But I think you're better. Much better than him." Sebastian looked up in surprise, his eyes meeting mine. I shrugged. "I'm just telling the truth. I'm going to get food, bye." Later, I found out why Julian's cousin said, his parents love him. Because they loved Julian, he got whatever he wanted. As a result, Julian never had to care about anyone's feelings or watch his words. Regardless of whether his parents' educational philosophy was right, they undoubtedly loved him very much. But Julian's cousin was different. I learned from Julian that his cousin's parents had a business-arranged marriage, had no affection for each other, and paid no attention to their sons growing up. Only their grandmother doted on the cousin, constantly nagging him to find a girlfriend soon so he wouldn't be all alone with no one to spend his money on. Perhaps mature children grow up faster. His cousin was brilliant, always at the top of his class, and his investments and business ventures after college were never unsuccessful. The memories swirled in my mind and then dissipated. I said sincerely, "I really do think you're better than Julian." Sebastian was taken aback, seemingly not expecting me to be so direct. "Thank you." That sentence you said, Sebastian's thoughts drifted, it encouraged me for a very long time. I didn't say anything. "I just wanted to see you again, and let my grandmother see you too," Sebastian said, stopping the car in front of my apartment building. He handed me a bank card. So I used some less than proper methods. I looked down at the bank card. "You don't like me, but none of that matters," Sebastian said, his features softening under the warm yellow streetlights, losing their stunningly aggressive edge. "Don't sell your photos online anymore. You can share your beauty, but not by exchanging it for money." I don't know how it all ended. When I came to, I was already holding the bank card, riding the elevator up. The card in my hand felt like it was burning. I didn't need to guess to know that it contained a very, very large sum of money. I clutched the card tightly. After breaking up with Julian, I was in a daze for a while. Not because of the pain of heartbreak, but because I was caught in a strange, contradictory loop. My friends didn't understand. "Are you crazy? Breaking up with Julian Sterling? You should be begging him to take you back. Do you think you can find anyone better than him?" Actually, I felt that besides not being as rich as him, I wasn't inferior in any way. Julian was good-looking, but so was I. We went to the same high school and got into the same university. I even thought my temper was much better than his. But in everyone's eyes, I just wasn't good enough for him because I didn't have money. That was a fact. In this day and age, money is important. So I wanted money. I wanted it very, very badly. If I had money, would they still think I wasn't good enough for Julian? The day after the breakup, someone saw a video I had posted on social media and sent me a private message. "Hi babe, can I pay to buy out your photos?" I replied, "What do you mean? I'm in an online relationship, but I'm not good looking. I'll pay you, you sell me your photos, and you can't post them on social media anymore." "I don't know about that. 1K per photo, 3K per video, 2K for custom voice clips." I hesitated for a long time. Another message came through. "Don't worry, it's nothing illegal." In the end, I agreed. I lay on my bed, holding the bank card, deep in thought. Just then, Leo sent me a voice message, apologizing. "I'm so sorry, sis. It was all my brother's fault for threatening and bribing me. Sigh, actually, I think this whole thing was too rushed. I saw you and Julian in the garden. Does he like you too? But don't worry, I haven't told anyone. I think both my brother and Julian are a little crazy. Don't take it to heart." Leo's voice, paired with this serious message, was somehow hilarious. I asked the question that had been bugging me: why were you so sure the person you were scamming was Julian, not Sebastian? Hearing my question, Leo got excited and sent several exclamation points. Another 60-second voice message flew over. Holy crap. It's a long, sad story. I'm not friends with either of them because they think I post on my story too much and deleted me. So I can only see their accounts through the family group chat. And their profile pictures are both really simple and dark, and there are no nicknames in the group chat. At the time, someone DM'd one of them in the chat saying they'd take me to dinner. I remembered my brother was abroad, so I figured it had to be Julian. So I copied that account ID and added him on a burner account. He asked me what I wanted, I couldn't really explain, and he was about to delete me. So I sent him your picture, and his attitude changed immediately. I even remember thinking to myself how shallow Julian was. Sigh, who knew it was such a big mix-up? Listening to him, my feelings grew more and more complicated, but my mind gradually went blank. I fell asleep without realizing it. The next day, I woke up in a daze. Seeing the bank card in my hand, I was instantly wide awake. After thinking it over, I decided I couldn't take this money. I had to return it. I had already earned quite a bit, enough to start a new life in a city I liked, away from my old friends and my old self. I threw open the door. Julian was leaning against my door, dark circles under his eyes. He nearly gave me a heart attack. I took a deep breath and shoved the bank card into Julian's hand. Perfect timing. Take this back to Sebastian. Julian's dull eyes instantly lit up. You don't want his money? Then what do you want from me? I glanced at him. I'm a poor girl. I don't deserve to spend your money. I was about to close the door, but Julian blocked it. I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. Wait, what? This guy can apologize? Did he get possessed? I sized Julian up. Didn't you say you were always the one chasing me? Now it's my turn to chase you, Julian said. He was clearly new to this whole chasing thing, but he'd always been a first-class brat. I crossed my arms. Don't you have a new girl? Julian's brow furrowed. After a moment, he seemed to remember and said with a smirk, that was Leo's friend. Her family cut off her allowance. She heard from Leo that I had money and pestered me to lend her some. He saw me still looking at him. Julian's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. I had someone watching you. I knew you were at the mall and was trying to run into you. I scoffed. Run into me with another girl? Julian was at a loss for words for a moment. I thought you'd get jealous. You thought wrong, I said, trying to close the door. Julian blocked the frame, his voice low. Then give me a chance to chase you. Let me torture you back for all the times I tortured you. I'd never seen the rich kid so humbled. I admired the sight for a moment, then still closed the door. No. A minute later, I received a message on my phone. Julian, Ava, want to get dinner later? Julian had blocked me before, and I hadn't bothered with it. Now he'd unblocked me himself. I smiled at the text. I moved my fingers. Now it was my turn to do the blocking. Julian sent me a message on another app. I blocked him again. Until only one app was left. Julian, whatever. You've enlightened me. I'm just going to keep pestering you. I was speechless. This persistence. Why did it feel like whether I was the chaser or the one being chased, I was still the one being tormented? I collapsed on the sofa and received an unexpected friend request. I can't believe Leo gave Sebastian my contact info. I accepted. Sebastian, then I'll start pursuing you officially, Ava. Wait, so last night wasn't us parting ways? That bank card was just a small token. Would you like to have a candlelight dinner tonight? I continued to lie limply on the sofa. The sun was so bright today, shining through the window onto the sofa. It was a bit glaring. But it was also quite warm. Since it's so warm, I think I'll just go back to sleep for now.